press the record button and keep on doing the intros. But Dean, we're going to get you to kick off. Good morning, team. We're all looking great. Dean, it is over to you to kick us away and get us started for today.
JP, look, it's funny how things happen, and they happen for a reason. Like, obviously, some great numbers overnight, some really positive noise out there. Hutchie had a great conversation with Leah Cohen, and I'm sure he'll let us know what that was like later today or through this session. But realistically, to wake up, see that, hear that positive noise, but to read your email today, I thought was absolutely spot on. I couldn't have, as I said, I've read hundreds and thousands of your emails, JP, but today I really believe you nailed it. You know, it's time to put the COVID delay away. It's really simple. It's time to get back on and do what great agents do. It's to have a vision that excites you. Work on your goals again. Like all these things that are happening, align your day-to-day activities. Get excited about what you're doing, because it's been a common a common piece of noise that we've heard across our organisation. People find that less motivated, less, find that less sense of doing things. But the key thing that we do know is that we are one day closer. Are we game ready? Are we match fit? Are we ready to go? And do we realise what could possibly happen to us, both professionally, emotionally, and physically, coming out the other side? I spoke earlier about the team about Goward Buchanan. He gave us a fantastic insight on the pre-lockdown, the post-lockdown blues. Now, we don't want to have the post-lockdown blues at O'Brien Real Estate when we can actually know that we've got customers that need to be served. And, and how important is our culture moving forward together. So I want to thank you for your email today, JP. Best on ground, best one I've read for a long period of time, by the way. Not that you don't do a great job all day, but today was an even better, greater job, mate.
Awesome, thank you. And Hutchie, you've got some news for us on what's going to be happening ahead potentially.
So I had a conversation last night about quarter to 9 with Leah Kelman, and their position is that we should hopefully, fingers crossed, and they're thinking they're about a 60-40 chance. So odds on, we're odds on at the moment in the old racing and punting terminology, but a 60-40 chance in the positive that we may be able to do inspections next week. So as she said to me, she said, look, Darren, what will happen is we'll get notification probably 10 minutes before his press conference on Sunday of what changes are happening, but there's some positivity there, and fingers crossed, we should be back hopefully next week doing inspections.
That's awesome and great to hear. Stavros, any other things before we jump into today's sessions for guys to know from you?
Josh, I've spent the morning, obviously thank you for your email this morning, but I've spent the morning, I've gone back and had a look at our 90-day sprints. So we've got, 8 to 10 weeks between, say, Monday and Christmas. So I'll put together for our teams a 2-page sprint. And you know what? We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We've done this every year. We've just got to get off the couch now and out of our homes and hopefully doing one-on-ones. But it's a great world out there. And as Chris Helder says, sorry to say this, but there's no better time in the world to actually be alive than right now. So there is an alternative, and it's not good.
Can I just with one other thing, JP, before we go any further? Mm-hmm. There's a company out there at the moment, guys, that are running around claiming that they can do photos under a media pass. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's taboo. At the moment, there is no company that can do photos of properties, be it vacant or occupied. And we spent a fair bit of time on this, Stav and I, yesterday, and I know Jason Mudford as well. So there's a company called P-Block. If they approach you, take the fly squatter out and give them a bit of a clip with it, because they cannot do photos under a media pass, and it is illegal. So that's just one thing we all need to know, because as I say, we spent a fair bit of time working on this yesterday, and that was part of the reason I was on the phone to Leah last night. So if P-Block approach you and say they can do photos under a media pass, it's just a steadfast no at the moment.
Well, they're conning people.
They're conning people is really the spot on, Steph, 100%. Oh, we've lost JP.
You've muted.
Thanks for the briefing, guys. And let's jump into our next little part of getting you ready for what is going to be ahead. Dean, I'll get you just to admit any latecomers as we can today. Just as a part of our conversation, we're going to get you really ready for what is ahead. And certainly we are seeing some new things on the horizon. So today I wanted to take a slightly different approach and getting you to really think about your business as purely a set of great systems. And we're going to get you to go deep around understanding that. So what I would say to you is that now is the time to go and lap the competition. And what we know is that there are a number of agencies that are still in denial about whether or not we're going to be opening, reopening, or whatever. But we know that at some point we will be. And what is really important is that from today forward, we're going to get the business primed and ready for the reopening. And this is so important to make sure that you've got a reopening plan. You know, what are the list of things that you're going to need to do the moment that we do get advice from the Premier about a change in circumstances in real estate? You're going to need to make sure that you can bring your photographer forward, you can get all of those appointments done, that your vendors are ready to have their properties photographed, that you've realigned all of your existing stock, that you're in a conversation with who are the best buyers on every single property. And the reason why that may need to be is that if it is anything like New Zealand and they only allow you to have 2 buyers through a particular property in any one 24-hour period, you're going to need to rank the buyers on every single property. So this is some of the work that we can be doing now to really making sure that we're setting our business up for a high level of success. But it is time to get out there and to lap the competition. And the way that we do that is to make sure that we play the game seriously well over the course of these next few weeks. How do we re-enter post the pandemic with a high level of energy, motivation, and market share? And to me, this high level of energy is all based on making sure that we're really focusing on what we're putting into our minds, what we're listening to, what we're watching, and literally turn off the news, because no doubt the corporate team will be in contact with you if there's any changes in what actually happens at a real estate level. What we need to be focused on is getting our motivation back very, very clearly. We're in a position that today we're literally just over 90 days or so until we get to Christmas. It is going to be a really important time for when we do reopen. And you've got to think that in the course of the next 6 weeks, we may well be in a position that we're going to be listing stock already for 2021. So as a salesperson, you've got to think about some of the tools that we bring to the table. And one of those tools is to draw up a T-chart on the left-hand side to write down 2020, on the right-hand side to write down 2021. And then what we do is that every single time that we're working with a seller who's thinking about this year or next, they're thinking about 2021, we will put that in that column. And that's going to be a great call list for us to go back to in November. We know that certainly at the start of November on the O'Brien Real Estate website, we will have launching in 2021. That's going to allow us the opportunity to be able to have plenty of properties that will be listed there so we can really make sure that we get out of the ground for a great January. It's so important to get this ready that I'm starting to get you focused on the future and to get you firmly going there. As long as there are problems that need solving, our future is bright. There are plenty of problems that this pandemic has brought about it, but there is such amazing stories about what is happening around the world. And now more than ever before, there are people that are in a position, they've lived with their partner for 8 weeks straight. There's a divorce or a baby on the way, and in some cases, both. But what is massively important is that you get very, very clear about who are the people that have a genuine need and intent to actually go and do a real estate transaction. You need to change things. Now is the time to go and do that. We know that literally we could be opening on Monday. If the Premier announced it tonight at 5 o'clock and said that we're available to go and do business tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., would you be ready? And this is such a great story because it's such an important thing. In the UK, it happened exactly that way. 5 p.m, Boris Johnson came out and said, tomorrow morning, estate agency will be open from 9 a.m. And no one was ready. They were literally not in a position that they'd called their vendors, they'd called their landlords, that they were in a position that anyone was ready for what is going to be happening. What we are going to be looking at inside of the teams is potentially some reallocation of resources, because we expect to be launching over 500 properties direct to market the moment that literally we do get the opening gunshot. As a part of that conversation, that means that we're going to have to put 500 properties onto real estate and onto domain. Off the back of that, we're going to need the marketing right, the copy right, the photography right. Everything's going to need to get done. So what are the things that we can do pre the opening to make sure that we are 100% ready? Pre-writing the copy, making sure that we filled out the property information sheet, make sure that we've got everything right in terms of our statement of information, our agency agreements, Section 32s ordered, if not already in the office, available for distribution to buyers, and being in a position that we've ranked the buyers. So the moment that we are available to be able to go and do appointments on properties, we can go to make that happen. Now is actually the time to be potentially briefing your family for the changes in those circumstances, because you're going to be out early, you're going to be coming home late, and you will literally be exhausted with the amount of energy and effort that is going to be required for the amount of private appointments that you'll be facilitating as an agent. After 7 to 8 weeks of a little bit of time away from doing those private appointments, there's going to be a huge amount of momentum, and we need to get you ready. So this is now the time to go and change things. You want to even go in and maybe put the suit on and just see whether or not it still fits. If not, maybe it's time to get a little fitter in the course of the next few days to make sure that you are absolutely in a position that you are client ready. We need to be changing the routine. We're already starting to move into what feels like summer here in Sydney. We're hitting 25 degrees during the day. It's starting to get warmer. it is really important to realize that daylight savings is going to come before we know it. It's going to be a change on the clock, and we are going to be out there running at our absolute hardest. And we need to be in a position that literally we go to make change happen. As a part of that, Viktor Frankl wrote a great book, A Man's Search for Meaning. And in that, he says that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of all the human freedoms, to choose one's own attitude in any given set of circumstance, to choose one's own way. And now more than ever before, we need to choose the attitude of success, to choose the attitude of winning, to make sure that we're getting you back into that position to really drive forward as we see some incredible market opportunities ahead. What you need to be thinking about is some positive task orientation. If you're feeling a bit negative, if there's some automatically negative thoughts, if you're a bit over it, a bit burnt out, a bit exhausted, what can you be doing to literally change your mood quite quickly? Listen to a piece of music, call a friend, be in a position that you go for a quick walk, go and get a takeaway coffee, go and do something that actually gets you back into that level of momentum. It is important to make sure that you've got that list of things that you can do to instantly feel better so that you can go and play at your absolute best. As a part of that conversation, the market is very dynamic. We don't need to go through a whole range of statistics, but I do need to give you some indicators on what are the things that you can be doing to encourage sellers to come to market now, and certainly what can you be doing to encourage buyers to ensure that they participate. No one's going to know how the Melbourne market will operate until we're 3 or 4 weeks past the opening, but what I can tell you is that if it's like any other market in the world, this thing is about to go off like there's no tomorrow. We are about to experience potentially one of the biggest booms you'll ever see inside of your real estate career. They're in a position in New Zealand, they're selling 35% more properties than they're currently listing. The United States has sold more properties than they've ever sold before since 1994. The UAE is in a position that in the course of the last month, they've actually seen more transactions at a higher volume of sales, higher sale prices, record sale prices than they've seen in the course of the last 10 years. And in the UK, it's the best market they've ever experienced in the last decade, certainly the best set of conditions since Brexit was announced over the course of the last 5 years, with a return of consumer confidence to go and make things happen. What we are seeing is that there's especially a large number of analysis that are tipping that the ultra low rates are helping to support a rebound in these asset prices, including for housing, as the economy emerges from the pandemic. In fact, case numbers can be made, but by the time we reach the fourth quarter of this year, residential prices in some of our main cities will actually be rising. What they're saying is the difference between the GFC. If you were around in real estate 10 years ago, the problem was that you would go to the bank and you'd say, hey, I want to borrow $1 million. And the bank would say, we don't have any money, because they didn't have the capital. But this time around, it's a completely different crisis, and it's always about income. So, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Banker, I would like to be in a position that I would like to borrow $1 million. The only thing they're going to ask you, how's your income? As long as you've had great income, they will lend you the cash. And what we know is that the RBA have already made over $200 billion available to Australian banks. Australian banks have only lent out $56 billion of that. So close to $150 billion or so additional funds are waiting at the banks for us to go and withdraw them out in terms of loans. So from that point of view, as long as you've got income, you are right to go. And literally, there's a feeling of excellence starting to come into the community. There's a feeling of positivity about the future. The borders are opening between New South Wales and South Australia. We expect they'll open into Queensland in the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks. We expect within 4 to 5 weeks that we'll be back open with Victoria. As soon as the east coast of Australia is back and open for business, we are going to literally be in a phenomenal period. This will literally be the best part of what we have seen in this market this year. And I would expect that over the course of the first 30 days post-opening, if you are ready, you will write potentially 2, 3, 4, even 5 months worth of income in the course of that period of time. So it is very important to make sure that you are ready. What you want to be saying to sellers, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, we don't know what's ahead. You do need to move quite quickly. We know this is the sharpest drop in GDP that we've ever seen in the history of the country. If you're thinking about doing something, then you need to be doing it now. And the reason why that's such an important part is it's going to take a long time for us to be able to recover, and we need to see the recovery actually occur. That's the sort of graph to convince sellers to come today as opposed to waiting. What we also know is that for those buyers that are looking to buy, this is a new graph that came out from Westpac. I feel the banks are semi-bipolar at the moment, but what they are predicting is that they expect that the Melbourne property market will improve by a minimum of 12% in the 2021 to 2023 year timeframe. So we are in a position that asset prices will be on the improve. And this is a great thing for any buyers that might be holding back or might be a little bit reluctant about actually coming forward to market. But today I want to go and get you really focused about everything that we can be doing around skill set. And this is a great session today to really get you focused about what you should be doing if you're thinking about good quality systems. And the reason that this came about is I was talking with one of my agents who's about to go and put on his first assistant here in Sydney. And what I realized is that he was really lacking the systems for success. The only difference between someone who writes $1 million and someone who writes 300 grand is the quality and the usage of those systems, and then the people that they put around them to use those systems on a regular and consistent basis. So today we're going to go and have a look at some of the most essential parts of what's really going to help you to grow your business. What we know is that Australia is in a position, there are some supply side issues. Agents believe that they need to be competitive on fee. I disagree. One of our clients in Hawthorne in Melbourne at the moment has actually moved to surge pricing. In other words, because he's got more demand than he's ever had from sellers, that he's actually starting to increase his fee to be able to go and deal with those people. And this is going to be a real capacity crisis that will literally be hitting the real estate industry. You're going to have more opens, more auctions, more private appointments, whatever it is, you're going to have more of those things, whatever we are legally able to do when that is announced. And that's going to cause us to mean that we're going to have to operate very quickly to keep our days on market short to allow us to proceed on to the next listing. We need stable leadership. It always leads to success inside of any business. And what we know is critically important is that in your business today, you need to be very calm given this current situation. Your owners need to know that you've got a plan, and you need to be speaking with every single one of your current vendors to make sure that you've got an opening plan on what we're going to do should the government allow us back into business as early as Monday. To me, it's either a system or a person. That's the only reason that your goals and dreams and aspirations haven't been achieved. So what is it that we need to be getting right to make sure, do we need better quality systems, or do we need to be working them as people to ensure that we've hit that level of success? Today, we're going to go and review all of the key systems to put you back onto that track for success. But the reality of it is, what is a system? A system to me is just a really simple, it's a repeatable process that produces the same outcome with little to no variation. So every single time that we use the system, it really allows us to get to a different level of success. What I would say to people that without a doubt, the most important thing to think about is that systems are usually built out of what we go to call service failure. So usually what happens inside of a business, we have a major failure point in what's actually happening in the delivery of service to the client. That failure leads us into a position that we go to recover from that particular issue. And we say, you know what, never again should that actually happen to a customer. And so then we move into a position that that becomes our service standard. This is what we actually do at O'Brien Real Estate, which then leads us into a position that we go to deliver that service time and time again. And we know that great service, once delivered, sets up a customer experience. When customers love what you do, they go and tell other people about you. And that is the beginning of word of mouth marketing. Word of mouth marketing is the #1 marketing lead source, but yet a lot of people don't really think about it, about having those service standards. Those service standards could be basic things that, you know, when you go to an appointment on a property, that you at least text message the client as soon as that appointment has been completed to advise them that they're right to return home. It might be the service standards that you have that after you've gone to see someone, that then you provide a written summary of that particular meeting, particularly if you're pitching for the business. Whatever it is that you do, you need to be very, very clear. What are the service standards that exist inside of your business that you and your team need to be delivering on? And this is where you've got to fix your follow-up failure and make sure that you really lead to that next stage of business growth. As a part of that, systems are built around a couple of key areas. And today we're going to have a look at a couple of the core ones. The first one is to go and have a look at the systems of forms. What do forms do? They capture information. They capture information in exactly the right area. We have a couple of key forms that we train inside of our business. One of them is what we go and call the blue form, and it's the market appraisal form. The reason that you want to fill out the market appraisal form is it has questions on it that ensures that you set up the pitching environment. Basic questions like, are you currently living in the property? If they say no to that, then who is? If the property is vacant, we go down and we see that particular property, and then we bring the client back into the office to have a conversation with that. In the COVID era, we're going to be doing that via Zoom. But what is critically important is to think that the market appraisal form is there to prevent critical errors. Did you have any expectations on pricing? When you sell this one, where are you going to be moving to? How much are you going to be spending on the next one? What do you need to get for yours? And you'll be able to spend that level. So we're now starting to find out what it is the customer actually wants in terms of pricing expectation. Never underestimate the power of that blue form. And no matter how confident that you feel that you are in booking for appraisals, make sure that you fill it out from beginning to end. because it helps you to be able to identify any of the areas of risk and to substantially build the business. The next one after that is to then think about the green form for buyers. The green form is such an interesting one. It's a very simple form, but one or two of the key questions that I love. Have you purchased locally before? And what are your plans with your existing when you go to buy the next? The benefit of the green form is it allows you to identify potential sellers. It also lets you work out with that particular buyer around what their problem, timeline, and destination is. What's the problem that they're looking to solve? What is the timeline that they're working towards on that particular item? And then what destination or location are they actually moving to? It is really important to think about that. We also use a white form, which is a property detail report. It has everything that we need about that particular property. One of the key things we have in our property detail report is some simple ideas where we just ask vendors some basic questions. Are all locks in working order and do they have keys? Do all developments comply with council regulations to the best of your knowledge? So that when we can identify issues and challenges that might be happening on that particular property well before we even go to launch that particular property to market. Now, forms have got to be exciting. You've got to love using them. These are one of the first key things I used on the inside of my real estate career. I remember day one, I walked into the office. Robin from front reception rang me. She said, Josh, you need to come out to the front. There's a lady who'd like to sell her house. And then she whispered into the phone, that means bring the blue form. And what I did is I brought that blue form. I sat in front of the client. I filled it out from beginning to end. We get to the point on pricing. And what's your expectation on pricing? She said, well, that's why I've got you here. I said, well, look, we can't move through the form until you tell me. So you'd need to give me the number. And I got the number. It was a moment of bravery. And that's how I actually learned to get pricing from customers. It's really important that you think about the power of forms on the inside of your business. Then we've got checklists. Checklists are a really important part of the business. And what they do is they put things in a stepped order, in a sequential order of how they actually need to be done. Now, in your business, you have two versions of a checklist. You have a read and review checklist, and then there is a read and do checklist. The read and review checklist gives you a list of all the things that you might need. The read and do checklist is then the actions and the steps that need to be taken. The best example of this is a cookbook. You're going to need a cup of flour, a cup of milk, and an egg in order to be able to go and make pancakes. But literally, you need to put them in the right order. There's no point putting the flour into the fry pan and then adding the egg, taking it off the heat, putting that onto the plate, and then adding the milk, because you can have all the ingredients, but if you don't put them in the right order, then ultimately you don't get pancakes. And it's exactly the same on the inside of your business. Sitting inside of Dashboard, we have a plethora of checklists. Now is the time to be able to print all of those out, go and read through each of those individual ones, and make sure that you've got a business that is using those systems. As a part of that, you then want to have a checklist of checklists, so that at any time that you find yourself in a position that you're setting up for a private appointment, that you're in a position that you can go and see a client, that you're actually going to be preparing for a vendor meeting, whatever it is that you do, make sure that you've got a checklist so you've got everything that you need. As a part of that, ultimately how we run our diary is how we run our life. And so it's really important that you have a set of systems for how you go to run the diary. We know that now more than ever before, you're going to have more capacity issues than you've ever faced inside of your real estate career. So it's going to be very important that you get very focused to start the day nice and early, and then to get ready to go and do the appointments as soon as we're legally able to. As a part of running that diary, there's a couple of basic, simple principles that I follow. And that's the idea that from the moment that my car leaves the garage in the morning until the moment that my car comes back into the garage at night, the only thing that I'm doing is I'm either on the phone or I'm in front of the customer. If I just stay focused in doing one of those two actions, then I'm ultimately going to lead to a much higher level of success. What I know is a part of running a diary, there's a couple of basics here. You want a start time and a finish time inside of your diary. For me, I love to be out of the driveway at my place at 6:45 a.m. I need to do that in Sydney, so I'm already here in Double Bay by 7. So then things are literally operating and working very finely for me. I then have a finish time. I like to make sure that by 7 p.m. each night, I'm done in terms of speaking to clients. And I just know that I've absolutely maxed every single hour in terms of the usage throughout the course of the day. You need to make sure you go and schedule your holidays. This is absolute game time for what's going to be ahead. There's a long weekend that comes up in October. After that, it literally is on like there's no tomorrow. We need to stay pretty focused for what it is that we're going to be doing. For us, what we go and have a look at is what are we going to be doing around Christmas? I know that for a lot of us, we're planning Christmas this year as pretty much being a long weekend in Victoria, because we expect that the market will absolutely have a bull run. And this is a very important period to make sure you've got a couple of days where you're going to be taking some time out, but then you need to be absolutely running with it like there is no tomorrow. The opening of the season is ahead. We're expecting to get a good announcement on the weekend. We're expecting that come Monday, you may well be in a position that you're back in front of clients. We need to make sure that we are ready to rock and roll. As a part of that, make sure that you schedule your time out. I have three really simple philosophies that's always around my values. And the first value that I've got is my health value. So I schedule my health time. That's why I go for the run at the start of every day. I schedule my family time, that time out and away from the game. Then I schedule my work time so I know exactly what I'm going to be working and what I'm going to be working on. It's really important that you get that right. Your family's probably never had more access to you than they have over the course of the last 6 or so months. That is about to change once things open. You're going to be going missing, so to speak. Your kids are probably going to think that you're going MIA. This is now the time to be making sure that you're having some conversations and getting people prepared for what may be ahead for the moment that it happens. And that's such an important conversation. It's all a part of building a great opening plan. As a part of that, we know that inside of your diary that these are the only 3 types of appointments that you can book in. A BAP, MAP, or LAP, a buyer appointment, a market appraisal, or a listing appointment. You want to make sure that you're tracking those numbers. And those people that do the best, that grow the fastest in any business, track their numbers so then they can go to measure and adjust. Why this is going to be so important is that for the buyer appointments that we will be booking, you want to be booking those with buyers that already have something to sell. Ultimately, those buyer-seller appointments are going to be much more important for generating future stock. And at the same time too, we need to identify which of the buyers are the most urgent because they're in a position that they need to do something as a part of that conversation. That BAP, MAP, LAP is a really important part of our conversation today. As a part of that, you then want to think about the visuals. This is the time to go and refresh all of your visuals, to download them from Dashboard and to make sure that you're presenting at your absolute best. Things like your agent report card, bring that up to date. If you don't have one, then use your office's one. So speak with your director around making sure those figures are absolutely up to date and ready to go because this is the type of information that you're going to be using inside of your listing presentations already. And in addition to that, we need to make sure that you've got your last 20 sales. That could be the offices, it could be yours, it could be your last 20 sales for houses, your last 20 sales for units, but this is the time to go deep with those existing visuals. And also too, your access to buyers. This is a little different because we haven't had that access to buyers through private appointments or opens, but what about our access to buyers in terms of the number of inquiries that we've received, particularly from real estate and domain and the O'Brien real estate over the course of the last 6 or so weeks. That is going to be a really important driver to be able to get people to make the decision to use you to actually be their agent. Once we've done that, we then think about your agency report card. Interesting conversation to go and get that right because the more that you can be using, the difference here between the agent and the agency report card is talking about the statistics of what we do at O'Brien. If you think about it, 8,000 or so properties under management, having a quick look at that, that's effectively 16,000 or so consumers, about 4,000 or so transactions a year. That's about 8,000 or so consumers, 8 plus 16, over 24,000 people have actually done a successful real estate transaction with O'Brien Real Estate in the course of the last 12 months. And Mr. and Mrs. Owner, there must be a reason why 24,000 customers have made the decision to use us. That sort of agency report card can really help you to separate and allow you to use the quality of the brand statistics. I saw Michelle in an interview with Darren talking about the power of cross-selling, talking about the power of other offices introducing buyers. This is the story and the fabric of what allows people to make the decision to use you to actually go and be their agent. As a part of that, now's the time to go and refresh all the dialogue. So the systems, forms, checklists, visuals, now dialogues, the ones that really cut to the chase, some simple things. Have you bought locally before? And what are your plans with your existing when you go to buy the next? These dialogues should be on the agenda every single time that you're working with a buyer because it neatly identifies who your potential sellers are. And in addition to that, think about what is the problem that you're looking to solve by buying, by selling, and moving. That's a great question, followed by, and how urgent is that problem for you? This then allows you to get real clarity about what the challenges are that particular customer is going through to be able to assist them as a part of that conversation. So get your dialogues right. Think now is the time to upgrade the systems in the course of the next few days to get ready for literally what is ahead. Then in addition to that, you want to make sure that you've got good quality meeting rhythms. Meeting rhythms are really important on the inside of a business, and you've got to get back to these meeting rhythms for before the opening occurs. A daily directions meeting with you and your team, really knowing specifically what you're going to be chasing today, followed by a little 3 p.m. loop back where we're starting to get clear about what has actually happened during the course of the day and are there any things that need to be done before we're at close of business. That driver then gets you in a position that on Mondays, you need to be working through your buyer hit list meeting, Tuesday, our seller hit list meeting, and on Wednesday, we need to have our stock control. Each of these meeting types should be sitting on the inside of your calendar. You should have the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday meetings on the appropriate days, and then literally put as an all-day appointment. So if I double click on it, it then literally gives me the agenda. That agenda for Mondays, when we do our buyer hit list review, who's made an offer, who needs to buy by a certain date, who's already been bidding at auction, who's one of our frequent clickers. And we know that there is going to be a ton of buyers that are literally going to be in a position they are ready to go and do a transaction. So it is massively important that you stay very focused on who your best buyers are, that you rank them on each property so you can identify who you need to get through first, if there are some limits to the number of people that we can get through a property come the announcement from the government. On Tuesdays, all about our seller hit list review. What I want you to be thinking about, who are the people right now that are buyers sellers? When you have a look at your pipeline, is that clearly articulated between problem, timeline, and destination? What's been listed? What's been sold in the area? What's been in the media? And what should people know about that will force them to go and make a decision today? And then what hypothetical questions can you ask? You know, if I had a buy, could I mention your place or should I sell them something else? If I had a buyer that wanted to buy with a long settlement, what would you want me to do then? If I had a buyer that wanted to buy literally with a lease back in play, would you consider it? And if I had a buyer that wanted to pay great money, could you live somewhere else? All of these questions are going to be the basics of what really allows you to progress that pipeline. That should be in a very clear format. So you think the name of the client's Josh Phegan, his address is Smith Street, his problem is he's got a job relocation, he needs to be moved by November, he's moving to the North Shore of Sydney, his price point is 1.2 million, 322. What's been listed, what's been sold, what's in the media, what's being developed that he should know about, and in addition to that, what hypothetical questions could we be asking to get progress for this particular client? That is such an awesome way to view your business. It then allows you to go and have a look at our stock review meeting on a Wednesday, which is always based on the days on market, inquiries, inspections, second appointments, contracts, and offers. Dean and I were speaking about it before in the director's session, and the big driver is that most of the properties that we already have on the market today, we will effectively be taking their days on market back to zero. It's very important to relist those in terms of making sure that you have an authority in play that is not being expired and that you're in a position that you're clear with the owners around what our plan is should the reopening occur. What needs a price reduction? What needs a change in relation to the marketing? And also in addition to that, what needs a change in relation to the sale method? We expect that auctions will literally be gangbusters like there's no tomorrow. There's a ton of volume that's going to be ahead and we need to be ready for that. What I also want you to think about is that what are some of the things that you can be doing to improve you and your team? And one of my favorites is the next 5 key skills. So if you said to me, okay, Josh, I really want success, what are the next 5 key skills that you absolutely need to master that's going to make you a much better agent? And if now's the time to be doing listing presentation role play, is now the time to be really working through that pipeline, is now the time to be able to use some of the systems that you've seen today between the forms, the checklists, the visuals, and the dialogues to make sure that you perform at your absolute best. That leads you into starting to think about building out your circle of competence, writing down all the key skills inside of a circle that you already have. And every single time that a new key skill comes to the table, you add it to that circle of competence. And now you're going to see a plethora of skills, capabilities, and abilities, which will drive your confidence into the future. What I want you to then consider is that as we come to the close in this formal part of our session, you've got to have a strategy, you've got to measure it, and you've got to adjust. So in your business, how do you go to generate your leads or prospect? If we went and had a look at all the listings that you've won this year, what actually has been your best lead sources and what do you expect to be your best lead sources once the market starts to reopen? It's really important that we make better quality data-driven decisions so we can ensure that we hit that level of success. How many buyers are you meeting each week that are inquiring online? How many of those are you getting phone numbers for? How many of those are you literally having a conversation with? How many already own locally and would need to sell their property once they make the decision to purchase? And what is the problem that those people are looking to solve and how urgent is that problem for them? See how everything interconnects. And if we operate a business on systems, it will be an incredible way to go. The next driver after that is then think about reviewing that last 12 months, working out how you go to meet the vendor, and then thinking about how you go to win the listing. And this is such an important conversation. In the 24 to 48 hours post-listing, a vendor called by an independent research firm to find out why they made the decision to use you or why they made the decision to use O'Brien Real Estate. You can do it yourself if you need to. You can get your principal to do it. You can get someone else in another office to do it. But what I think is massively important is find out why you win business, so then you can make sure that you use that in your next listing pitch. How do we process our stock? This is all about the idea of using the stock control sheet. We've been through that before based on days on market, inquiries, inspections, second appointments, contracts, and offers. Looking at that stock control sheet holistically, what do we need to do to make sure that we've got everything in the right place? What are the indicators of interest on every property? Having a quick look at those around and what we're doing to ensure that we're getting contract or Section 32 requests and that we're getting offers on properties. And then making sure that we're converting any of our existing listings potentially to auction to get that sale method process moving, so we can really keep our days on market short to be able to have capacity for the number of transactions that we expect to see. The final thing then to think about is about people. Inside of your team, what are the functional roles that you're going to need people to be playing? We're talking today with our directors potentially about diverting some people's roles just over the course of the first 7 to 14 days, because we expect that there will be a huge amount of properties that will need to be uploaded, and we need to make sure that all of our marketing is absolutely spot on. So some of our additional team members, they will be moving into some marketing roles to help us in the first 7 to 14 days once the opening is announced. And certainly what the directors are working on today is the opening plan on what they're going to be doing as soon as this market does reopen. So I thought that would be a great way just to give you some things to think about. I don't think I took breath during the course of that particular period of time. Dean, as a part of that, I think that it gives you some idea that there are plenty of things for people to be working on as a part of that conversation. Really good level just to get you to think about the basics of what a great agent does. Dean, thoughts before we open up to some questions and what people are doing?
JP, 30 minutes of absolute bliss. You're right. You didn't actually take a breath for the last 30 minutes. I don't know how you do it, but thank you for doing it. I'm with you. And as I said, we've been speaking quite regularly. And as Crystal just put here, power session, it's time to really react. It's really time to react towards this market instead of waiting this market to react to us. It's, we've got so many things that we can do at the moment, but I do love the fact that what we said when you first started in real estate is checklists will set you free, and then we'll be able to deliver on a standard. So I think it's really clear now that as a core group of agents, we don't want to, as we get busier and as all the noise, and we don't want to under-deliver. And the way that we can deliver on that is make sure that we have a checklist for absolutely everything. Some of the things that we've spoken about is stock control reports, so we can have data-driven conversations. So actually have a strategy around this measure and adjust, because we're going to be pulled left, right, up, down, everywhere as agents. As you said, like we've got pretty much 6 to 10 weeks of transactions where it could be equivalent to a 20-week transactional space. So that's high demand. So we need to give a high response back, JP.
And I'm just thinking there, Hutchie, that, capacity is massively important. Today, I thought, let's go and revisit all of the core systems that we use. And it just should be a plus dot or a minus for each person. Am I a plus on that? Am I a dot on that? Or am I a minus on that? And if ever I've had time to do something about it, now is the time to do it. Because Hutchie, I can see this window closing of available time. And then all of a sudden, we're now going to be back into making a whole heap of things happen in front of consumers. And we need to make sure that our team are ready. Thoughts on that?
Look, absolutely, JP. I've just wrote a heap of notes here that we're going to have a sales meeting tomorrow, because I think we need to be on the front foot for what's coming. And, as I said before, if we're a 60-40 chance of opening, we need to treat it like we're 100% and treat it as every day's another day. So, but I think the key is get on the front foot, get yourself prepared, get game ready, because I think it's going to go off like a cracker. The only thing, and I'm probably asking this on behalf of, what do we got in here, 88 people in the room, when can we have a holiday?
Yes, well, you're not going to be able to do that until Christmas Day. You might actually be able to enjoy one of the long weekends that we have here in New South Wales in October. Maybe you can take the Monday, but literally you've got to move like there's no tomorrow, because there's a lot of momentum. Stav, your thoughts?
Sorry, one other thing. I think the other thing is, for everyone in the room, go back, rewatch this, put it on 0.5, because you go so fast, JP. There's so much information in there. Like I've taken a heap of notes, and there's actually a roadmap to come out of this better than we went into it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the whole thing is that how can you be in a position that you don't come out of this better? You've got to be more motivated. You've got to have better quality systems. You've got to plan for the re-emergence. And that's what a lot of people haven't been doing. They've just been, waiting until they're told that they can go. but they haven't been getting ready in the background. And like, it's like, imagine all the athletes that trained for Tokyo and then all of a sudden couldn't go to the Olympics. Mate, if they called the Olympics back on tomorrow, has their training been ready? Have they in a position that they're better than they were on that day or not? Or have they just let themselves, maybe lose a little bit of form? And Hutchie, one of the big things I'm saying to a lot of agents, go put on your suit again and see if it fits. Because if the first appointment may well need to be the tailor, if you haven't been looking after yourself over the course of, the last 7, 14, 21, 28 days. Stavros, for you?
Josh, it's time to warm up the engines. I can feel it. We discussed it the other day. I can feel it in my bones. We're getting ready. We're closer and closer to getting started. We've got our 90-day sprint, which I've put together, so I'm ready to go. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow as well. But you know what? Now's the time to dominate. And in a lot of our markets, before we went into lockdown, Jason and Mudford and I did a bit of an analysis on a few offices, and in a lot of areas we already do dominate. Now it's time to do what, put a gap in them. Let's put our heads down, bums up, and get going. But I'm pretty excited, especially with Richmond being in the finals. But apart from that, we're ready to go.
That's awesome. Good to hear the optimism. Not sure that all of your dreams will come true there, Stav, but we're certainly on our way. Dino, any key people that we should go to today and put in the spotlight?
I tell you who I'd like to go to is Mary Cassar. I was watching her taking numerous amounts of notes, and she was going really good. So, Mary, what did you take out of that today?
Let's get Mary unmuted if we can.
I did notice she was taking a heap of notes there today, so really good, interesting to see what she got out of today.
We got you on, Mary. Just unmute if we can.
Unmute.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Gotcha. Yeah, we got you. Go for it.
Oh, you go very fast. Yeah. I think realistically, which I'm really good news to hear, is that we are very close, which I feel confident too. It's really the big, realistically, what I took is to really get ready. We're in for a really busy time. And more importantly, I think just really get everything organised, have everything in order. We're going to be having great opportunities, and just to really make sure that we use them really, really well.
The amazing thing about it, I've never seen this before, but all of the real estate markets in developed Western civilization are exactly the same. They're all booming. There's huge amounts of volume, and there's lots of positivity from consumers. And so, like, literally, there's no reason that Melbourne's not going to follow that exact same footprint.
So I have got a huge amount of buyers already for properties to go through. So obviously we've got to qualify. So that's our first priority. And just to get that confidence back to our sellers. They've been in a bit of a doubt, but I think, saying what you're saying, that there's going to be an improvement. That's very positive, and having that to go to, which is great. And it's about every individual's mindset. It's how you deliver it. Yeah.
And I think the big thing there, Mary, too, is about understanding capacity, right? So it might not be a Saturday auction. It might be that we're going to do our midweek auctions with O'Brien TV. You got to start thinking really differently, because we need to open up that capacity, because it's my feeling that we'll have 3 or 4 months worth of volume of transactions come through in under 30 days. So if you're ready for that, then great things are going to happen. So great to have you join us in the spotlight today, Mary.
Thank you again. Good to see you.
Dino, anyone else to pop up on the spotlight?
Look, I haven't seen Tanya or heard from Tanya for a while. So, Tanya, what have you been doing? Because you've obviously just looked down the bottom of my screen there. So it'd be interesting to see how you're going at the moment. Obviously, you've been homeschooling, you're on school holidays, you've got a lot going on. How are you feeling about the market? But more importantly, do you feel that you're game ready yet? Or is this something that you can help us to get game ready?
No, absolutely game ready mentally. Can't wait to get back on board. Again, taking a whole lot of notes from Josh, so thank you. But I just want to bring it back to the absolute basics, like key management, diary management, getting brochures, making sure that on Monday we are ready to go. After I finish this Zoom meeting, I'm going to call every single vendor I've got on the market, get them priced right, get them remarketed, and just let them know that we need to be ready to go as of Monday. And I just wrote down here what Hutchie said. We need to treat it like 100% we're ready to go on Monday. So what does the weekend look like for us as agents? Getting our keys ready, getting our brochures ready, getting 32s ready to go, and just having a system in place that if somebody wants to make an offer at the property, right, what does that look like? Isabel's set up ready to be able to do that for me. And it's just about diary management. Having those photographers, I'm going to call every single supplier that I deal with today and having them ready to go for Monday. Booking in the appointments, because look, the worst that can happen is we need to reschedule. But if they're booked in, locked and loaded, well then mentally we're on board and we're ready to hit the ground running.
That's awesome to see the positivity and the momentum there, Dean.
Can I just jump in there? Did you notice in that language today? Not about tomorrow, not organise it. I'm going to call them today. I'm going to call my vendors today. I'm going to get my alignments today. And what's the worst case? Like, I just listened to that tone, and that was absolutely spot on. But the words you used was today, not tomorrow. I'm not going to get ready. I'm going to do it today. And I think this is where agents here, that we're all sitting back waiting. Why not just do it today?
Josh?
Stavros.
Can I just say thanks for that, Tanya? If everyone wants to do themselves a favour, Tanya did a podcast yesterday with me, and I tell you what, it was one of the best ones I've done. Get on it, listen to it. She talks about her client care. She talks about, you know, what drives her. Like, literally, guys, get on there and listen to it, because it is one of the really, really good agent podcasts that you'll hear. It's not from a trainer. It's someone that's in the field, that deals with everyday adversities, as we all do. So, Tanya, well done on yesterday. I reckon it was one of the best ones, so well done.
Awesome. Well, Dean, we're directly on time. Any final thoughts before we finish up today? And Hutch, any additional items that we need to be aware of for O'Brien TV and its return?
Look, JP, we'll pivot as quickly as possible. So, you know, Croc Studios are open. You guys book the auctions, we're there. It's as simple as that. So, you know, I would say, if I go back to what Sam Rogopoulos mentioned on our recent Collective Friday, that basically, you know, if you book an auction campaign for 3 weeks, there's no reason you can't bring it forward. You know, if you've got 4 or 5 bidders on it ready to go. And I think the key here is you're going to see a lot of stock come to the market. There's 20,000 transactions that haven't happened. There's going to be a lot of stock and a lot of choice. So if you've got those 4 or 5 bidders, you know, pivot yourself and pull them for order week and just put them to bed. I think that'll be the key. So we're ready to go. We're basically ready to go. My suit fits. I don't know about Stav's. You know, the bike's been good, the walking and everything's been good. So mine's okay. Just don't Stav.
Mine's not.
Hey, and from us, JP, what a great session it was. I think everyone in the room needed it. I have no doubt in the world. And always a gem. There's always a gem in there, but thanks to you guys for reaching out. Thanks again, Tanya and Mary and everything else like that, because I think we need to hear those conversations. But at O'Brien Corporate, we're massively here, ready to go. We just want to go. We're like everyone. We want to do as much as possible. So reach out if you need anything. Just want to remind what Hutch said. Don't get caught up in this media issue, that the fact that they can go and take photos because of media, because they can't. And that the fact is here, we're so close, and hopefully some good news. But again, JP, to all you guys out there, let's just get ready and be game ready and just have the very best time moving forward.
Awesome. Well, I've got Daniel Boyle there. I nearly thought that was a whiteboard that was bigger than Kim Ferguson's from last week in the background, but I think it's just a mirror. So, mate, we got close there. Is that close to a whiteboard?
Yeah, no, not really, mate. That is a mirror in the background.
Yeah, I was thinking, geez, Kim has inspired him, and he was nearly there ready to rock and roll. So great to see the momentum, team. Good to have you on our session today. Awesome to go and get there. Let's go and get ready for what may be happening. I just need to get you to think about this. If the government calls it on, are you ready? Because what you do in the course for the next 7, 24, 28 hours is going to make a huge difference for us being ready for when that happens. So get the suit on. Let's make sure that it's ready to rock and roll. Lovely to see you this morning. And team, we look forward to catching up with you next time. So thanks so much. We'll see you soon, hey? Cheers.
Bye. See you all.